What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be my review and analysis of legendary Byleth as well as the other units present on this banner, and I'll be rating them based on their fodder and also their performance. So hope you all do enjoy, and just like Byleth, make sure to null follow up YouTube by leaving a like and subscribing. I really appreciate it a lot. So we have got male Byleth as a water legendary unit, and he's a green infantry mage. Definitely not something that people expected, but with his promotion class Enlighten 1, so it's not really too surprising in my opinion, and he's a pretty solid legendary unit because of the strong things that he brings to the table. So he's got professorial text as his weapon, kind of weird name. I thought this would be something else, like an actual, spell. So this gives him -1 special cooldown, which makes Sublime Heaven a 1-turn special, and if he initiates combat or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can get +5 to all of his stats. And if he's got more speed than the enemy during the combat, then he will get null follow up. And he can also give drive null follow up to allies within 2 spaces. So you pretty much have to position Byleth within 2 spaces of the ally which wants to enjoy null follow up, and this is like conditional null follow up, by the way. This is not just outright null follow up. You can only make use of this if you're fast, because it will compare your speed with the opponent's speed. So this is pretty good for a lot of units, as you can run combos like having Spurn, Close Call and still enjoying null follow up, or you can run null counter disrupt and have null follow up. So fast units are going to be able to make a lot of use of this in general. Slow units don't really get much out of this really. Now keep in mind that this drive null follow up is going to be applied to even flying units and also the cavalry units, which conventionally do not have access to null follow up, and even armor units, but most of the time armor units are going to be slow, and this drive null follow up requires speed stat, so it could be pretty helpful with some of the flyers, like maybe Brave Claude for example, because he doesn't have the best slot Bs available as a ranged flyer, so giving him the null follow up support is going to be nice. And cavalry units are usually not the best tanks, but they can still appreciate the null follow up if they are fast. They are still going to be rather rare for the most part. Fast flyers who want to be defensive with Wyvern Flight, guard bearing, stuff like that, can definitely appreciate the null follow up from him. So it's a conditional speed based drive null follow up, which is extremely unique and it's definitely going to be helping a lot. And I'll go over the specifics of how this will help many units and different game modes later on. He has got Sublime Heaven as his preferred special. This is definitely his preferred special because he doesn't have any other unique skill on his passives. So this is pretty much a better Ruptured Sky because it is consistent and it will also do better damage most of the time. So it will boost his damage by 25% of his attack stat. It's kind of similar to Draconic Aura in a sense, and if he's against a dragon or a beast unit, then he will get 50% of his attack stat as the damage. So it pretty much becomes a Dragon Fang against a dragon unit or a beast unit, which is extremely powerful because this is going to be a 1-turn special, and then the Time Pulse in his base kit is going to be pre-charging it. So he can always start up with the Sublime Heaven ready to fire off. And that is extremely powerful because this is pretty much like a Draconic Aura, or in some cases a Dragon Fang available at the start to just blast the enemy with. And it also disables non-special skills that reduce damage by a certain percent. So it just invalidates any kind of damage reduction like Fallen Edelgard, the damage reduction skills, Fallen Star, stuff like that. He doesn't really care with this special, and that is extremely powerful because it is going to be improving his matchups tremendously. So the fact that he can hit really hard with the special and also just not care about damage reduction is really good. Of course, stuff like Negating Fang and Ice Mirror are still going to be reducing the damage, but it's not like Fiorm is going to be surviving Byleth anytime soon. But Legendary Corrin's Negating Fang is definitely something that you have to keep in mind because it's a special damage reduction skill. So he has got attack defense ideal 4, and this is actually a pretty good option on him. Usually ideal skills are a bit hit or miss because it requires you to be at full HP and also have a bonus on yourself if you want to get the full +9 buff to your stats. And the reason why this works really well on Byleth is because he's got null follow up in his weapon. So you can run Windsweep on his slot B and not really take any kind of damage and have this ideal skill active at all times. He has also got lull attack resistance, which is a bit odd, so I guess they really want us to kill Joshua's. So you will have to pretty much run Windsweep here most of the time, but lull attack resistance is also a pretty good option. And then he's got Time Pulse, which is extremely important part of his base kit because this will pre-charge Sublime Heaven, and it's really important to have Sublime Heaven pre-charged because a lot of armor units like Brave Hector, Fallen Edelgard have these kinds of guard effects in their special fighter basically. So having this pre-charged just allows him to fire off the special and not really care about guard, which is extremely good. So yeah, overall Byleth kind of seems similar to young Merrick as you have seen. He has got null follow-up in his weapon, minus 1 special cooldown, and he doesn't really have the effectiveness against, flyers of course, but pretty reminiscent of young Merrick. But he does bring the drive null follow-up to the table, which is extremely unique. So I'll be, again, expanding on that more, and I think that he's definitely going to be unique compared to young Merrick or stuff like that, and his stat spread is definitely going to be something that we don't really see that much. So here, he's going to be attacking this blue Manic Heat, and he's going to pop his sword. So that is just like, how? I didn't expect that. And then here he is with Sothis, of course, and this is actually really funny animation because he just throws all of the lost items. I'll slow this down, and you can actually see Constance's fan here, so maybe we'll get Ashen Wolves on a banner or something. But yeah, a lot of lost items here. He's just going to be throwing that up. So that's his animation. And now let's talk about his stats. So I feel like he's going to be having a stat spread similar to this. He's definitely going to be really fast. Absolutely no doubt about that. And the reason why I think he's going to be really fast is because his base kit doesn't have anything that can boost his speed, which is really odd because, his null follow-up is speed based. So you would think that he would have something that can boost his speed, but nope, he's got attack defense ideal. And that's why I think that he's definitely going to be pretty fast at like base 42 or base 43. And usually don't really see these kinds of mages with higher defense and lower resistance. And I have a pretty good reason why I think he might have that, because he's got attack defense ideal 4 and lull attack resistance in his base kit instead of having the standard speed based skills. And I think they're pretty much trying to sell Legendary Byleth in a way that he can stack enough defense to enemy phase Legendary Chroms in the water season in Arena. So having that extra bulk, the color advantage against Legendary Chrom, is going to be really helpful. So that's why I think he's going to be having a bit more defense, and that's definitely going to be making him unique as a mage, because mages don't really have this kind of defense, and he's also got null follow-up, so he can just disable a lot of the auto follow-ups and cheating skills. So now let's talk about how I think his weapon will affect the metagame in different game modes. So first of all, let's talk about Arena, because I feel like he's really Arena focused. If his defense ends up like this, then he can definitely stack up enough defense to bait out Legendary Chroms, which is really good. His resistance is going to be on the lower side, which means that he can definitely just bait out Legendary Azurias and kill them. So that is pretty nice. And he doesn't really care about Legendary Dimitri's damage reduction with a Sublime Heaven pre-charged. So Legendary Dimitri is like dead. Legendary Leif, of course, is going to be annoying to enemy phase, and Byleth will probably die, but if you like stack up defense and stuff, maybe he can survive. But overall, his matchup spread against water Legendary units is really good, especially Legendary Chrom and Legendary Dimitri. Legendary Dimitri for sure. In the win season, Legendary Corrin is going to be able to just reduce the damage from Sublime Heaven with her negating Fang, and there's also Legendary Sigurd, who's going to be a bit annoying. In the Earth season, he just destroys stuff like Legendary Tiki. It's not a big issue. And Legendary Claude is also a unit that he can definitely take care of, but even if he does not have enough defense, you can always bait out Legendary Claude with a unit that might not necessarily die, but still can just survive. Because Fallen Star on Legendary Claude does not matter because you have got pre-charged Sublime Heaven, and Sublime Heaven is just immune to Pulse Smoke or even Pulse Tie or really anything. And he can also deal with Legendary Julia pretty easily, and he will be able to deal with Fallen Edelgards really well, and also Brave Hectors in Arena. There's also the fire season with Legendary Edelgard, and that shouldn't be really a big issue. Legendary Lilina is of course going to be annoying for him, and the reason why he's really good in Arena is because you can run the damage reduction skills on your units as well as get the effect of null follow-up, which is going to be helping you against the impact users like Legendary Chrom many times. He likes to run impact skills, and also Dual Leif, who's really threatening, so giving that null follow-up to the allies within 2 spaces is pretty amazing. And for the most part, like his drive null follow-up is gonna be more useful for the enemy phase units, because you cannot really practically expect to run Wind Sweep on units and make use of the null follow-up and pretty much try to make them like Byleth in player phase, because he needs to be within 2 spaces. So you would have to move Byleth within 2 spaces of those units in player phase, and that's just not very convenient. So most of the time it's going to be on the enemy phase units who are going to be enjoying this drive null follow-up, and that is going to be helping you quite a lot in Arena for sure, because there's just so many skills that give you auto follow-ups and negate follow-ups, and the fact that you can just combo this up with damage reduction skills, lull skills, is really amazing. When it comes to Aether's offense, I don't think he really particularly stands out, because the competition among supports is pretty high. There's Flame, there's Brave Lucina and stuff like that, but the thing is that you can still have null follow-up and damage reduction combo with just Flame, and Flame gives you flat damage reduction, so it's not as unique as it is in Arena, because you cannot really run Flame in Arena. So in Aether's offense, null follow-up is going to be nice, but keep in mind that if you use him in the light season, Bramimond still ignores your drive null follow-up because of his impenetrable dark. So your null follow-up means nothing against Bramimond, and that's why I feel like having null follow-up on your unit natively is better in the light season. If you use some kind of flying or cavalry tank, then maybe the null follow-up can come into the play and be useful to you, because you actually cannot run that on your unit natively, so there he can help for the support, but most of the time like the competition is quite fierce as a support unit in Aether's offense. I feel like Legendary Byleth is incredibly good as a cleanup unit or as a support carry essentially, who can take out units which might be troublesome for your carry unit. Like he will destroy most of the far save armors except for maybe far save Henriette, which are rather rare. Most of the time people just use Brave Edelgard and Brave Hector. So with his Wind Sweep, he can safely attack those far save armor units and just break through and give your team a chance to, just initiate. And if you run into armor style teams, then Wind Sweep is free, and you have Sublime Heaven, which is just gonna destroy people who like to run Fallen Edelgard in their corner. He will just destroy that because he doesn't care about Fallen Edelgard's damage reduction, and he will get Dragon Fang against her, so he's gonna be like doing so much damage to her. So that's why I feel like he's better as a cleanup unit, because he takes care of those annoying threats. And in the anima season, he doesn't really care about Seros's Dragon Wall. He just pierces through that with his Sublime Heaven and will just one-shot her. And a lot of times, Seros is going to be on the front line. There's also, Nott now in the light season, and she also has damage reduction, but it doesn't really matter to Byleth with his pre-charged Sublime Heaven, and that's why I feel like he's better as a support carry or like a cleanup unit in Aether's offense. Really good in that role, but that's just my opinion personally. The place where he's extremely unique as a support unit is if you can run a null counter disrupt unit like Guinevere, Micaiah, or stuff like that, and then you also give them null follow-up. That is, I think, really powerful, because they're not going to be missing out on any of those 2 skills. They can deal with the Dazzling Staff Fire Sweep units and also deal with the auto double units. So I think there he shines most as a support unit. But for the units who don't want to run null counter disrupt, it's nothing really too much unique in my opinion. And he doesn't have the best synergy with like the save armor units essentially, because they are going to be slow, and you pretty much need the ally to win the speed check to get their null follow-up. Now granted, they're definitely going to be winning the null follow-up checks against many of the slow units, but unless you have a speedy armor unit as your save unit, like maybe Winter Felix or something like that, then most of the time save armor balls are not going to be making much use of him, and Flame is just going to be better for them. So really fantastic and flexible unit for Aether's offense usage as a cleanup. And as Aether's defense unit, I think he's going to be really annoying, because a lot of people love using Brave Hector, and he will absolutely shred Brave Hector because he's got color advantage, he's got pre-charged Sublime Heaven, does not care about his special fighter. You run Wind Sweep, Brave Hector cannot retaliate back, and you just do free damage and double him because you've got null follow-up in your weapon. So it's extremely powerful, and I think he's definitely going to be super annoying for a lot of the Brave Hector users in the water season. And you can of course make use of Bright Catria and Legendary Byleth and make really annoying quad teams, but I think that's mostly gonna be, season logged and stuff. And most of the time he's just gonna be used as a Brave Hector check, because he's pretty good at that, and he can also deal with Fallen Edelgard. And if he ends up having this kind of physical bulk, then he's not gonna be as frail as most of the green mages, which are used to check Brave Hector. So yeah, Aether's defense, Legendary Byleth is definitely looking pretty promising, and the fact that he's just immune to Pulse Smoke is also really good with that pre-charged Sublime Heaven. Nothing really to scoff at really. Like if you try to tank him with your mythic units like Freya and stuff like that, Freya's gonna get killed. And if you're gonna be trying to tank him with Altina, then he's got Wind Sweep, so that's not gonna work. If you just get a one-off copy of Byleth, then he's gonna be providing you a lot of value for Arena Assault because he just shreds through Fallen Edelgard. He will get Dragonfang against her pretty much with Sublime Heaven. He bypasses her damage reduction, doesn't really care about her counterattack because he's gonna be running Wind Sweep, provided you kill Joshua for that, and he's going to be able to deal with Brave Hector and so many annoying Arena Assault threats, and also help your units survive those threats by giving you that null follow-up to survive stuff like Dual Lift and things of that nature. So overall, Byleth seems to be a pretty solid legendary unit, but of course not as crazy as something like legendary Sigurd, which we have seen. Like Sigurd is on a different level, but still legendary Byleth is quite solid and is a lot more arena focused because of his support. So it's really going to be annoying to face him in arena because it's the similar thing as Duo Byleth. Duo Byleth is also really annoying because of the same Wind Sweep combo with null follow-up. But here, legendary Byleth is even more annoying because he will have a pre-charged Sublime Heaven, and not a lot of units want to take that. And not to mention, he's actually gonna be bulky on the physical side, unlike Duo Byleth, who's extremely frail and is also weak to bows. So he's gonna be a constant pain in the neck to face in arena for sure. Especially if you have like highly invested legendary Dimitri or legendary Chrom, it's surely gonna be really annoying for you. And even in arena assaults, like baiting him out and tanking him is gonna be really annoying and hard because of his damage output, the null follow-up, the Wind Sweep, all of the shenanigans. So really solid legendary unit that also brings the drive null follow-up to the table, which can allow you to hard counter some of the threats like Fallen Edelgard, Brave Hector really easily just out of his base kit, which definitely makes it easy. But keep in mind that Fallen Edelgard was a sparkable unit, and a lot more people got her through sparking than they're gonna be able to get legendary Byleth, who's on a banner without spark and also with color sharing. And null follow-up is going to be extremely amazing as a support effect, and usually units with some kind of support skill are going to be aging up to be a bit better than units who would just focus on pure combat. So legendary Byleth also has that factor, which will let him age well as the time goes on pretty much, as a water legendary unit, and he's going to be really potent in the water season and in arena in general. And unfortunately, we cannot really inherit multiple skills of his at the same time, so you have to pick between slot A, B, or C, and you can only inherit them at one at a time, which definitely decreases his value a bit. I wish we could inherit both Ideal and Time Pulse. That would have been really good. So you can run the Ideal skill, but at lower investments because he does require the speed to activate the null follow-up in his weapon. I think just stacking up his speed with stuff like Life and Death, Swiss Sparrow 3, Attack Speed Push 4 is going to be really helpful. And in Aether Raid's defense, you can of course go with ERD Attack Speed if you want to. And even an Impact skill is an option that you could go for. Attack Speed Ideal is also an option from Louise, who has that. So Ideal skills are pretty good on him for the most part, but we are going to be trying to stack up speed on him so that he can trigger his null follow-up and Wind Sweep, because those two skills do depend on that. There's absolutely no reason to not run Wind Sweep. I mean, Lull Attack Resistance works out, and I get why they have put that on him, but Wind Sweep is just too good as a safety net to just go and attack safely and not take any kind of counterattack back. The sheer utility of Wind Sweep is absolutely amazing. We have already seen that on Duo Byleth and normal Byleths, so there really should not be much doubt about running Wind Sweep on him. Time Pulse should be in his slot C always so that he can have the Sublime Heaven pre-charged. And for a Sacred Seal, you can go with speed boosting Sacred Seals pretty much and attack boosting ones, because his Sublime Heaven does depend on his attack stats. So the offensive Sacred Seals like Blade Session, Swiss Sparrow, Attack Speed Solo, Life and Death are all pretty good options. Life and Death does work out because he's mostly going to be using Wind Sweep, but if you try to bait out units with him, seeing his defense stat, then Life and Death is probably not the best option for him. It's more so on a budget essentially. And you can also go with attack defense farm actually on a Sacred Seal so that he can get more defense to tank stuff like Legendary Chrom. It could be an option if he ends up having this kind of defense stat. And now let's move on to the other units from this banner. So we have got Dagr here sharing colors with Byleth, and Dagr has, been a very essential unit nowadays for people because Nott is extremely oppressive, her sister, and being in a matchup of 5 units versus enemy 7 units can feel really unfair. And Dagr can also provide you with +5 resistance and +5 HP, and that just matters so much because a lot of the threats are just magically based stuff like Dual Lift, Selena, and the cavalry archer and the cavalry staff units. All of these things, they are going to be hitting your resistance. So the extra resistance which Dagr provides is really helpful, especially if you run air. That's like plus 10 resistance and plus 10 HP, and that is super good for tanking in presence of Nott and these really oppressive teams. And Pathfinder is not as good on offense. I've used Dagr from her launch basically in my AETHER offense, and like Pathfinder isn't as useful as it is on AETHER defense, but still like Pathfinder can help you many times for pot collection just to provide that extra mobility, and can also help you especially if you run armor units. Like I did use Legendary Edelgard a lot. So overall, you can definitely try to get Dagr if you're facing trouble in the light season, especially with presence of Nott. So that extra resistance, being able to break the structures, giving that Pathfinder is really good. And just as a mythic unit herself, like I said, she's good for cleanup, collecting pots, and she can also function well as a Gale Force unit. So you can pretty much run Dagr Force if you want to, and utilize Flashing Blade and make her as a Gale Force unit with a Trace skill or Wings of Mercy. Wings of Mercy is definitely going to be a lot more, budget friendly. Her Sun Twin Wing does have null follow-up built into her weapon, which is going to be helping her against like Brave Hectors and stuff like that. But most of the time she's not going to be used as a tank because she's a mythic unit. She doesn't get the extra stats like the other blessed units unless it's their bonus season. And the fact that you can also make her as a Bright Shrine Soaker or Chill Speed, Chill Attack Soaker is really because Skin Foxy doesn't really care about the debuffs, and it pretty much has the Unity effect built into it. So she can be a really nice soaker of the Bright Shrine, and I really love how she complements Mila for your tanks, because Mila can soak the Dark Shrine and Dagr can soak the Bright Shrine essentially. So Dagr is pretty amazing for AETHER offense, opening that extra slot of course and giving you that resistance, giving that Pathfinder support, and also acting as a Bright Shrine soaker. Dagr's fodder is also pretty nice. You can inherit attack speed push for and even Tempest at the same time. I feel like Odd Tempest is going to be better many of the times, but still it's a Tempest skill at the end of the day with a tier 4 push skill, so I think it's really good for value if you do decide to fodder her. But most of the time it is recommended to merge up these offensive mythic units for AETHER raids. Health value has definitely gone down with the release of Nott, because Hell used to give defense, and that was pretty significant for boosting up defenses of your dancers like Dancer Eldigan for being resistant to Mila's isolation. But now Nott has been available on a sparkable banner, and most people who do take AETHER raids seriously have sparked her, and she does give defense, so Hell is kind of redundant in that aspect. She's mostly going to be used in like her bonus season because Nott, Triandra, Bramimond are all better dark mythics than Hell. Still, like Hell can present as a really annoying unit with Mystic Boost, so even like a max merge Fallen Edelgard will struggle to kill Mystic Boost Hell, but then again, most teams are going to be having Peony who can just pick off Hell. So Hell is decent but not the greatest dark mythic unit, especially now we've got Nott who can also give the defense and is going to be present on every single team and also gives you the Pathfinder, so that's just much better. Health's fodder is really amazing because she can provide distant counter as well as guard bearing, so many of the tanky flyers can make use of both of these skills, and distant counter is just a widely used skill, so that is always going to be helpful. Then we move on to the blue color, and that has got Nott. So Nott's banner just ended, so if he didn't spark her, then this could be a chance to get her, but keep in mind there's no guarantee here, and you should definitely try to spark before the banner ends, because I'll be uploading this before the banner ends. So sparking for Nott is really important if you do care about AETHER raids a lot, and Nott is just pretty much the best defensive mythic in the game in my opinion because of Pathfinder and the degenerate stuff that she opens up. I've made a full video on her, so you can check that out, and how she functions if you want to know about Pathfinder and what kind of teams you can run. So absolutely 10 out of 10 unit, and even as a unit herself, she's actually not that bad because she does have that menace skill and she does have that bonus doubler in her weapon. So that can be pretty nice, and she can be decently bulky for what it's worth. Her fodder is also really amazing because menace skills are really good, and you're pretty much inheriting two 300 SP passive skills in distant counter and the menace skill at the same time. You pretty much need to inherit threat and speed, and then you can inherit distant counter and the menace versions pretty much. So it's really good. So she definitely has a lot of value as a fodder, but if you want to run double Nott or triple Nott, then that's an option as well. Erinys is quite similar to Duo Pala, but better in many ways because of her Celeste Frost. So Celeste Frost does give her the brave attack if she has got a support partner within 2 spaces, and that's much more flexible than Duo Pala by running like an entire flying team, so that definitely opens up some flexibility. And Erinys is pretty fast, so she can naturally quad attack if she doubles and also gets the Brave effect from her weapon, and she will not really get stopped by null follow-up like Duopala, so she's definitely a pretty strong lance flyer, and we have a lot of those, but still like Celeste Frost and her high offenses are definitely stand out, and her defense is also not too bad. She does have some amazing fodder in B-Dual Flying 4 and Attack Defense Rain at the same time, so if you fodder off a Legendary Azura or Peony before her, then you can get the Rain skill as well as the tier 4 dual skill, or you could even get Harsh Command Plus if you want to. So she's a pretty good unit, but the thing which she's lacking is basically -1 special cooldown to be like a Gale Force unit. And she's definitely a pretty good user of Dive Bomb because of her quad hits that she can do, and that can be really powerful, and she does have a new toy in the Near Trace skill now with its release. So overall good unit and amazing fodder. Legendary Julia is an Earth pair-up unit, and she does have Virtuous Naga as a weapon that can give her the Dragon effectiveness, as well as help her new card. She also does have Light and Dark, which is basically like an Omni Lull skill, and it also gives her Null Adaptive, so she can have a better matchup against dragons as they will not hit her low defense. And for the most part, Legendary Julia is one of the better Earth legendary units that can be used in Arena for scoring and just for combat, but still we do have Legendary Alm and also Legendary Claude, who I would definitely consider better than Julia for arena purpose, but at least like she's better than, stuff like Grima, Seliph, Legendary Ike, and also of course Legendary Tiki. So she has most of her usage in arena as a scoring unit, but outside of that, the competition for Infantry Blue Mages is really tough, because the problem with Legendary Julia is that she doesn't have a way of doubling naturally unless you invest into a speedy build, and a speedy Julia is definitely the best option that you can do with higher investments essentially. So that's pretty much one of the things which can annoy Julia, which is not doubling, because stuff like Marianne have their auto follow up, Micaiah also has auto follow up, and all of these like similar blue infantry mage tanks can do similar stuff. Of course they don't have dragon effectiveness, but they can still hit really hard, and they have an auto follow up. Not to mention we do have Guinevere as well, who's just faster and naturally doubles. So that's pretty much what I mean with the competition, because they all can do similar roles to Julia, but can double, which Legendary Julia struggles with. Her fodder is decent, it's not the best, but still she does have that impact skill at least. And for the most part I'll say that Sturdy Impact is better, because there are a lot of physical threats like Fallen Edelgard, Brave Hector and stuff like that, so the extra defense I feel like helps you more against these common threats than Mirror Impact, but still Mirror Impact is an impact skill at the end of the day. Annand is a Gen 5 sword flyer who doesn't have a preferred weapon, but still Unbound Blade Plus is a pretty nice inheritable weapon because it's pretty much the deck swapper, and Annand does have competent stat spread to make use of this at higher investments if you decide to merge her up, because she can definitely make use of stuff like Pegasus Flight if you want to invest heavily into her, and her offenses are also not that bad. But the thing is that we have so many sword flyers with preferred weapons like Legendary Ryoma for example, who can just outshine her and are just a lot more unique. So many times she's going to be used as a fodder, and when it comes to that, then she's got Sturdy Impact and Guard Bearing, which is pretty good, but most of the times not a lot of flyers are going to be making use of both of these skills at the same time. But on their own, like Sturdy Impact and Guard Bearing are really good. Sturdy Impact is of course extremely good in the hands of AI in something like AETHER defense, and Guard Bearing is the damage reduction skill for a lot of flying units who cannot run Wyvern Flight or Pegasus Flight, and as it is, flying units don't have the most amount of slot B options, so Guard Bearing can be pretty decent. Plumeria is pretty much the best Astro Mythic along with Regin because of the utility that she provides with Sweet Dreams and her dance essentially, and she can also provide you with some extra stats in attack and resistance with Flower of Plenty. So overall she's a really solid unit because she's got high attack stat, can often take care of stuff like Thracier, and she does have decent enough resistance to make use of Sabotage Speed or even Sabotage Attack. And overall really fantastic dancer. A dancer as your mythic unit is always going to be really helpful, and if you can get merges on her, then that's the best case scenario for AETHER scoring. She does have some fodder in Attack Res Push 4 and Attack Res Rain, which you could inherit at the same time. Leif is an Anima defense mythic unit, and his weapon can give him an auto follow up and also free stats if he's within 3 spaces of an ally, and his preferred skill Deadly Balance can also give him the in combat debuff and special acceleration. But the thing about Leif is that he's not all that impactful for AETHER defense, where he's a mythic in. I mean, having Saros with Wings of Light definitely helps Leif a lot, especially in the bonus season, but the thing is that Leif is just way too honest of a mythic unit, and you pretty much need degenerate stuff in Aether's defense. So unfortunately, he's not really going to be posing as a big threat, and if the enemy does not kill Saros, then he can get a lot of stats from Wings of Light in general. His fodder is extremely top tier with Distant Counter and Time Pulse, which you could inherit at the same time. And there are just so many units in the game who would appreciate any of these two skills or even both of them together. So really amazing fodder. Speaking of needing some degenerate stuff for Aether's defense, we do have Bramimond, and Nott is just the best Dark Mythic unit, but still Bramimond is not bad at all, even now, and he does have the auto follow up from his Void Tome, and Impenetrable Dark is going to be really helpful, and even on this banner itself, he just ignores Byleth's drive null follow up. And he can be a really nice magical colorless threat who's always going to be annoying to many people. So he works pretty well as a Dark Mythic unit, and the fact that he can give extra attack to his allies is also really nice just for the offensive pressure. So you mainly want a defense stack on him for Aether's defense because a lot of the threats are physically based, so that's why attack defense push for does work out, but he can definitely go with the impact skill, which can make him a lot more annoying. And Bramimond is pretty much the reason why you want to run null follow up on your tank, because his auto follow up with his attack stat and his power can definitely be pretty oppressive. So he's pretty much the second best Dark Mythic unit in my opinion after Nott. And his fodder is also really good. You can inherit the tier 4 push skill and the lull attack resistance at the same time. And this is a really good option on any kind of bulky mage pretty much. Getting that extra defense is going to be nice, and the lull attack resistance is a really fantastic skill. Legendary Leif is an absolutely amazing water legendary unit with having that range Gale Force and Neuron Zeal, and his Master Bow is a dual phase brave weapon, but in the hands of the player it does have the impact effect, which is really good. So he can function as a Vantage Sweeper, but Vantage strategies are not really all that common now, especially in Aether raids, but he still can function with that, and he can also function as a hit and run unit, and he can definitely hit really hard. Fortress with Neuron Zeal pretty much functions how Gale Force works with Kanto, so it's a nice good option for him. And he can be a pretty nice unit for most of the game modes, like for in-game content with 3 dancers, he can definitely be really useful. And for Aether raids, he can of course be used as a hit and run unit or just with the Gale Force team, because his range Gale Force is really good. And he can of course be used in Arena because he's a pair up water legendary unit. His fodder is quite underwhelming, and he doesn't really have anything else other than attack rest push 4, and most of the time it's not even worth foddering him for just that skill. Legendary Alm is an earth pair up unit, and he's still pretty good because of the true damage that he can get from his weapon that is based on defense of the opponent. Damage reduction skills are of course really annoying for him, but still the fact that he's got true damage is still something that he has got. He's just not as insane as he used to be when he came out. And he is fast, but nowadays we have got just so much faster units that it can be really annoying for him at times, so you pretty much just want to stack up speed on him to make use of his special and also to double. His fodder is not the best because Darting Blow 4 is probably one of the worst tier 4 skills. It just gets outclassed by so many other tier 4 skills, and null follow up is present in the divine code section, so it's not like null follow up is the hardest premium skill to get. I mean, it's hard, it's 5-star logged of course, but it is present in the divine code section, so most of the time it's not really necessary to fodder him off unless you're lacking the divine codes for getting the null follow up from there. So overall, this banner is rather tame with its color sharing. I feel like green is the only standout color, and even in that we have got hell. So it really depends. If you want to get Dagr, then you could try to do that. We are going to be getting a new mythic unit next month, and the colorless pool for the mythic units is really good, having color sharing of Air and Mila, and also having legendary Sigurd and Regan color sharing in the red color. So I feel like the next month's mythic banner is going to be having better color sharing value overall. Not to mention Choose Your Legends is just around the corner as well, so many people are going to be trying to save their orbs, but still let me know what you think about this banner, and especially legendary Byleth. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are trying to summon on this banner. I covered it comprehensively, and I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps you tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as your damage reduction against Sublime Heaven. So that's all. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.